Well, hey guys, it's Viejo here, and we're in the last week of May in 2025. Got kind of nice weather pattern as usual here on the central coast of California. As I'm speaking, it's probably 72 degrees outside, a little bit of breeze, but very, very nice. Hey, if you've been following the channel, you know that RCBS just donated a package of new gear to the channel here. We've already done a quick overview of the Rock Chucker Supreme press, and today I'm going to look at this new balance that they sent. This is the M1000 beam scale, and we're going to get this thing opened up. This is going to be an overview, not a review. Okay, we're going to get it unboxed, take some measurements, take a look at it, see what comes in the box, and so forth. If you have paid attention in the channel, you know that I already have this older RCBS 1010 scale, and that I have had it for a long time, and I really like this one. So we'll probably make some comparisons between these two just for the sake of comparison alone. But I'm going to reserve judgment and on a full-fledged review until I've had an opportunity to actually use this thing. So let's get it out of the box and take a look at it and see exactly what it's all about. All right, so let's take a look at this. Okay, we're looking at the RCBS M1000, okay, mechanical scale. Over here, RCBS limited lifetime warranty. Okay, let's see what's on the other sides here. I got a question. This email address is still with Vista Outdoor, who no longer owns or controls RCBS. As we've talked about, this RCBS company is now owned by Hodgdon. Okay, so that will probably change on forthcoming packaging. And let's see. On the back side here, I keep getting this. Okay, some identification of the various features and parts, leveling foot, 1021 grain capacity. Okay, I'm not sure what reloaders are going to be reloading that heavily, but nonetheless, it's capable. 3-poise design, so 1, 2, 3 poises, right or left-handed use, so we'll take a look at that. Storage and dust cover included, check weights included. Okay, there's a grain to gram conversion chart, which RCBS has done in the past. Plus or minus 1/10 of a grain accuracy, kind of standard for our reloading equipment. Even our electronic balances these days claim the same accuracy. Ambidextrous metal scale pan, I think that just means it has a holding tab on each side. Magnetic damping. Okay, so we'll take a look at how that's accomplished. Usually it's over here on the upright. RCBS limited lifetime warranty. See, I guess we looked at that. This side is just nothing additional there, and on the ends, okay, kind of a diagram or photograph, I guess, of the pan, and not a whole lot different back here. All right, so let's open her up. Okay, so this appears to be the correct way to open it. Yep, so this is the first time I've gotten into this, guys. I had not looked at this before. So this is fit in there pretty snugly. Let's see, maybe I can lift this whole thing out. Yeah, let's do it that way. Set the main box aside. And we've got some, there we are. I don't want to just yank this thing out of there because I'm afraid I'll pull the cover off, but that appears to be coming out of there easily enough. So there is the main package, okay? And let's see what else is in here. Okay, we've got We've got some instructions here. I'm going to go take a look at this and see if it tells me to do anything different than what I would normally do by instinct as far as taking this off. This cover is interesting looking. Look at those spacers in there. That's kind of interesting. Anyway, going to go take a look. Okay, looking at the instructions here. Okay, the first couple pages here are some warnings and safety precautionary information, which if you're new to reloading, you should read through all of this. And it tells us that there are some hazards associated with this. Okay, and let me bring you in here a little closer. And here we've got the information about magnetic damping. Says leveling dot. These are our main features, or leveling foot rather. Die-cast aluminum base, ambidextrous design, ambidextrous scale pan, and dust and storage cover. And it says the M1000 has 1,021 grain capacity, 3-poise system. Okay, you got one of the main poists there. Goes from 0 to 1,000 in 20 grain increments. Then the medium one is 0 to 20 grains in 1 grain increments, and the small one is from 0 to 1 in 0.1 grain increments. Says magnetic damping to eliminate unnecessary beam oscillation, and I covered that in a separate video not too long ago about magnetic damping and how it works, and so I'll leave a link to that in the description box if you want to go watch that one. Okay, unpacking your M1000 scale. Okay, specifically designed carton, provide a maximum protection, so we've taken it out of the carton. It says unpack carefully. Identify the parts as you unpack, and to remove the dust/storage cover, squeeze the cover at the middle tabs and lift it off. And then it gives us a diagram here with the parts. So let's do that. Okay, so we've got some tabs. Here's one. Okay, and there's one on the other side, and there's a slot in the cast base there that those fit into. And I got small hands, so I'm gonna have to maybe, there we go. Okay, a little tricky for me to get that off with my small hands. I can't quite grip all over, but this is a pretty tough Lexan type case, and we've got some ribs in here, bulkheads almost, to, I guess, to help keep those parts in place and keep them from rattling around. But that's a nice heavy duty cover there. Okay, so down here, let's see, this is going to be my check weight, I believe. Come back out here. Okay, let's take a look at that. Come on. There we go. Okay, okay, wrapped up. Okay, nice chrome plated check weight, and we'll check the weight of that. There's a hole in the base for that. Okay, over here is our pan. Okay, and again, an ambidextrous pan. And okay, so we got ears on both sides. Okay. As far as the ambidextrous part of this goes, I'm going to take the beam off of there and show you. But the beam is marked with its graduations on both sides for all 3 poises. Okay, that's a nice touch. Okay, so I'm going to lay that down for the moment. And then down here, oh, I should mention, I don't know if you can see it from your point of view there, but there's a slot there that holds our pan very nicely. Okay. And then here's our pan support. Okay. And at one point, you know, they were pointing to this and talking about it being the magnetic damping, but that's not going to be part of this. Okay. But we've got a nice spot to store that over here also. Okay, there's a little hook right here. I don't know if you can see, but there's a hole there, and our hook there fits in there. And so our pan support is going to live right there. Okay, so we've got our parts out of there according to the instructions. Okay. And it says the scale highly precision reloading instrument. Okay, 694.6 grain check weight. Okay. This weight was chosen to ensure the operator positioned all 3 pieces to a load greater than the mid capacity of the scale. Okay, RCBS suggests using a standard check weight set, okay, for checking the accuracy of your scale at other waypoints. Okay, and I always recommend folks get a check weight set as well. Okay, now assembly. So let's do this. It says to assemble your M1000. Place the beam assembly onto the base by first inserting the damping vane between the 2 zero reference pointers. So it's going to be over here. Okay. And next rest the sharp edges of the pivot portion of the beam onto the agate bearings. These are our agate bearings over here. Okay. And then place the pan support onto the shackle located at the end of the beam. To complete the assembly, then place the pan onto the pan support. So what they're talking about here, okay, we're going to go place our blade in here. Okay. We're going to set the pivot portion here onto the agates. Okay, and we will come over here and place our pan out here. Okay, there's a hook there. Okay. Just like that. Okay. And then it says to complete the assembly, go ahead and put your pan over here. All right. And that is the initial assembly. I'm going to turn this around here because the only ambidextrous part of this that's not really ambidextrous is this label right here, and this is our gram to grain conversion. Okay. And many of us are more accustomed to having our pan balance, or our pan on one side or the other. If you're a lefty, I can see where that would be kind of cumbersome, but you could just turn this whole rig around and you're good to go. Okay. And the next page of instructions, in case you were unsure about what the instructions were telling you to do as far as setting this up, we got some nice photographs that they refer you to show you how all that stuff goes. Okay. All right. Now that is set up, the next thing I want to do is I'm going to take the pan support and pan off, and I'm going to remove my beam because I want to see what's underneath here. Okay, we'll take that guy out so we don't dump him. There's nothing else loose on here. All right, let me I'm going to take this foot off so that you can see down in there with me. Okay, what I heard rattling was our magnet support. Okay, down in here. Okay. And so that's where the magnetic damping is going to come in. I'm looking at a little label that's down in here. I don't know what that is. Okay, it comes right off inspector's label or something. So this scale, unlike the 1010, does not have the approach to zero function. At least it's not done in the same way. Again, I covered that in that magnetic damping video I did. If you want to go look at that and see what the RCBS approach to zero is, it's a feature that I really appreciated. Okay, there's some of our rattle source right there too. And all of our storage depression areas have like a drain hole in them. There's one down in here too. It's down on this side. I don't think you can see it because it's in the shadow down there, but it does go, there's a hole all the way through there. And then there's one here as well. Okay, I guess in case you spill your coffee or whatever there. Anyway, another nice touch. All right, so we got it out of the box, got it all assembled, so to speak, and ready to go. Let's go take some measurements on this and draw some comparisons between it and the 1010. Okay, we'll look at weights and measures and so forth. Let's go do that. Okay, this is the M1000 made in China, and then over here on the 1010, the USA. The M1000 over here is quite a bit lighter than the 1010. Let's put them on a scale and see how they compare. If we look at the weight of the scale here without its plastic cover, we are just over a pound. Okay, maybe, not, yeah, probably 17 ounces or so. And if we compare that to the 1010 without its cover, it's quite a bit heavier. Okay, we're down there at 2.5 pounds. Okay, 2 pounds 8 ounces, so more than double the weight with the 1010 compared to the M1000. If we look at the length of this scale, we're right at 12 inches, maybe an eighth or a quarter more. Okay, and that compares to the 1010 over here, that's just under 10 inches. All right, we're going to call this a max of about 5 inches in height. And we'll compare that over here to the 1010. It's about 4 inches. The 1010, we're sitting on right about 3 1/4. Yeah, I've got my end of my tape right there. 3 1/4 in width. Pretty uniform all the way down. Again, there's the end of my tape on the M1000, and we're right at 3 inches, okay, at the maximum. It's a little narrower down at the far end down there, but I think I've got the tape set up at the maximum, just right at 3 inches. Right, there's a couple of notes here about how to care for your scale. It says keep the scale clean at all times. Be particularly careful to prevent the accumulation of dirt on the pivots and bearings. Never apply oil or any lubricant to the pivots or bearings, as this can lower the accuracy. Okay, so pivot bearing right there, okay? The agate bearings, okay, the white part's down in there, and then that little knife edge there, that's our pivot. So you can take a small, like a small acid brush in there periodically, get in there, and also down in here, okay, in those tracks there, keep stuff out of there. Okay, and then storage. Okay, store the scale while not in use. Place the scale pan in the slot. Hook the scale pan support into the hole. Slide the large hoist to 840. Remove the beam from the agate bearings and place in the slot. Install the dust storage cover. And then if you couldn't figure out those instructions for storing it, yeah, we got some photographs here for you to follow. Okay, now we'll go through putting this guy to bed. I read through the instructions. In here is essentially what they say. I guess it makes a little bit of difference in what order you do this, but we're going to first take the pan, and it's got a nice spot here, and there's 2 slots here in the base for those ears, and I like that. That holds that guy nice and secure there. Okay, the pan support comes off, and it fits into this recess here, and there's a little hole for that hook that's right up in there. Okay, so that goes into that hole there, just like this. And there is a slot there kind of for that crook to fit in there. Okay, so that drops down in there just like that. Our beam, we're going to take this off, and it tells us to slide the main hoist up to the 840 grain position, because when we take the beam off, the beam is going to rest, the front end of it's going to rest right here in this slot, and the back end is going to rest in that slot. And that hoist then is going to hold this guy from coming out, because once we put our protective cover on, all of these ribs in here are going to help hold everything tightly together. Okay, so up we come with that guy. And these little ears here are going to fit into the appropriate positions. And there are slots all along here to hold everything into place. And that guy just snaps on like that. And that's kind of ingenious how they've got this all figured out. That large hoist there, the main one, fits in between a couple of those ribs. And there's a slot cut in this one to hold it down. There are slots over here to hold the main beam into position, so that thing can't really move or fall off, okay, even if you jiggle this. So fairly well thought out there, kind of impressive actually. Okay, there you go. We got it all opened up and put together, and went through and did some measurements on it and compared it to the 1010. Just kind of real quickly here, what I see so far is it's nice and lightweight, easy to manage. I struggled a little bit with getting that cover off. I got to kind of pinch those tabs together from the undersides. I can't quite reach them this way. But overall, you know, this one takes the edge over that 1010 as far as the onboard storage of the component parts go. They did a nice job on designing that. That thing is really nice. The way everything fits in there, it's superior to the 1010 storage system, I think, anyway. But it is lighter weight, and it feels lighter weight. I don't know if that's going to mean that it's less durable or not. Time will tell. That's all we're going to hit today. Next time I'm going to go through the rest of the instructions, which tell us how to use a beam scale, this one in particular. So we'll do that. We'll do some weighing with it and show you how to adjust the hoists and what they mean and all that kind of good stuff. So we'll do that in the next one, and that'll be several days from now. But I think that's going to do it. So from the Viejo bench for now, that's all she wrote.